I stood up during my dad's funeral and told his wife to shut up. My dad's new wife, Normani, is 28. I'm 32. Mom died exactly 1 year ago, and Dad met Normani on some cruise to Mexico like 4 months later. She calls me sweetie at family dinners like she's some wise elder who's been around forever. She moved into our childhood home 3 months after meeting him. Dad got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in August. The doctor said 6 months, maybe 8 if we were lucky. Dad took it like he took everything else, quietly, with this small nod like he was accepting a dinner reservation. Normani's first response was asking if we should still go ahead with their anniversary trip to Cabo. I'm not even joking. The man just found out he's dying, and she's worried about her tan lines. She actually pulled up the resort website on her phone while we were still in the oncologist's office. The first chemo session, she showed up 45 minutes because she had a nail appointment she couldn't reschedule. My sister and I had been there since 6 in the morning. Normani walked in with her fresh acrylics, took one look at Dad throwing up into a bucket, and said she needed some air. She spent the rest of the session in the hospital cafeteria FaceTiming her friends. By October, Dad couldn't walk without help. Normani hired a nurse, which sounds nice until you realize she did it so she wouldn't have to touch him. She literally told me, I can't handle all the gross stuff. That's not what I signed up for. Meanwhile, she was still posting Instagram stories from her morning yoga classes and wine nights with the girls. November was when things got really bad. Dad needed round-the-clock care. We set up a schedule. My siblings and I would rotate nights. Normani said she'd take Mondays and Thursdays. First Monday, she called me at midnight saying she had a migraine and could I cover. Thursday, her friend was having a crisis. The next Monday, food poisoning. After 3 weeks of this, we stopped putting her on the schedule. Then came the money stuff. While Dad was literally on his deathbed, barely conscious, Normani was in his office going through financial documents. She called his lawyer twice asking about the will. She tried to get power of attorney. When the lawyer told her that went to me as the oldest child, she actually asked Dad, who could barely speak, if he wanted to change it. The last week was the worst. Dad was in hospice and we knew it was close. We were all there every day, taking shifts so someone was always with him. Normani would show up for maybe an hour, usually when she knew other people would be there. She'd cry dramatically, take a few selfies looking sad, then leave because it was too hard for her. 2 days before he died, she asked me when I thought we'd be done with all this stuff because she had a girls' trip to Miami planned and didn't want to miss it. I told her to go. Seriously, just go. Dad died that Thursday morning at 6:47. He waited until all 3 of us kids were there, holding his hands. She didn't even answer her phone when we called. When she finally came back from her trip, I pulled her aside. Maybe I'd misread everything. Normani, I know this has been hard. She cut me off. Don't act like you care. Now I have to deal with all this funeral stuff. Miami was ruined because you kept calling. I stared at her. Dad just died. She rolled her eyes. Someone has to be practical. At least I'll get the house. Already called a realtor. That's when I knew she felt nothing. You know what, Normani? You're right. You will deal with the funeral. She smirked. Finally, some respect. I knew what I had to do. The funeral was packed. Normani sat in the front row wearing a black veil like she was Jackie Kennedy. When it came time for family remarks, she actually got up to speak. Started talking about their beautiful love story and how Dad was her soulmate. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up right in the middle of her speech. Shut up, Normani. The whole church went silent. She tried to keep talking, but I walked up to the podium. You weren't his soulmate. You were his midlife crisis who couldn't even be bothered to show up while he was dying. I turned to everyone. This woman spent his last days shopping for her next husband on dating apps. She tried to change his will while he was on morphine. Normani's face went white. How dare you? You're not his widow. You're not our family. You're just someone who married a dying man for his money. And guess what? Dad changed his will 3 weeks ago. You get nothing. The lawyer stood up from the third row and nodded. Normani ran out sobbing real tears this time. I sat back down and finally let myself cry for Dad.